Pentagon has acknowledged that it conducted an unsuccessful missile defense test on Wednesday. The missile was launched from land and failed to intercept an incoming target launched from an aircraft over Hawaii. A Pentagon spokesperson confirmed the incident yesterday during a press briefing.
It did not meet our objectives, but we learn something all the time with these tests, and we'll learn something from this one, and we'll continue to improve our capabilities.
All right, to shed light on the issue, Michael Maloof, a former Pentagon official, is joining us live. Now, Michael, when something like this happens, you're always the person who has like the right information for us. So let's get to the Trump administration. They have reiterated support for development of this missile defense using the North Korean nuclear threat as justification. However, after this latest test failure, what is the future of a system like this?
Well, there's no other choice but to continue trying to perfect it. This is actually a modification of previous models of the SM-3, as it's called. It's part of the, it's off of the so-called Aegis platform, a type of missile that's about ready to be deployed in Romania, for example. They have a lot of bugs, and you got to consider too that when you're shooting a missile like this, it's like trying to knock a bullet with hit a bullet with another bullet. It's very, very difficult, and what's a little disturbing is that this is the second failure since June, I believe, and they were both shot under controlled conditions. So if a missile is fired in anger from, let's say, North Korea, and it's coming in at a terrific speed, the likelihood of that missile hitting that incoming is going to be extremely difficult. Again, that would not be under controlled conditions. And if the North Koreans, for example, were to do a swarm approach with 4 or 5 missiles at a time, it would absolutely overload the system. So something's going to get through. So the system itself needs a lot of work, and you're talking about technology levels that are still in the infant stage, and it's very difficult. What they're talking about in some cases is maybe working on like a modified SDI, or Strategic Defense Initiative program, and actually having launchers in space, because that's going to be an important future actually in trying to down missiles or even satellites that could in effect be nuclear weapons. But I think that for now the best time really to hit a missile in this case would be once it's launched, just after it's launched. But it could be a test, and that's one of the dilemmas facing policymakers and defense experts as to, is that missile a test or is it the real thing? And that's so there's a long way to go in this development program, frankly.
Michael, you
Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Recha HaKodash. Babylon the Great's missile system will fail, and that's according to prophecy, and that's also according to these so-called experts out there that are testing their missile defense systems, which is a missile to hit another missile, and they're not working, because at the end of the day, even if they are successful in knocking down a nuclear missile or any type of missile with another missile or laser or whatever they have, when the time comes, they're not going to be able to they're not going to be successful, because the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Shai is coming to take this devil down. What you're looking at here is Star Wars program, which was set up, I believe it was during the Reagan era, to combat, against missiles, but mainly to combat and fight against Yahweh Shai and the angels when they come back. That's why he made that speech in the 80s about an alien force, coming to attack. I have here on Wikipedia, this is missile defense. It says missile defense is a system, weapon, or technology involved in the detection, tracking, interception, and destruction of attacking missiles. And that's pretty much what they want to do. You know, they want to set up these missiles like this to be either launched from ships, or launched from subs, or launched from land, possibly airplanes, satellites, you know, with rays, you know, to try and destroy any missiles that are coming from either Russia, China, North Korea, India, Pakistan, you know, anywhere on the planet where people have these missiles. But it's not going to work. It says originally conceived as a defense against nuclear-armed intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, its application has broadened to include short-range non-nuclear tactical and theater missiles. The United States, Russia, China, India, Israel, and France have all developed such air defense systems. In the United States, missile defense was originally the responsibility of the U.S. Army. The U.S. Missile Defense Agency has developed maritime systems and command and control that will eventually be transferred to the Navy and Air Force for operation and sustainment. It doesn't matter if you get the Green Berets or the Marines to man this thing. It's not going to work. So we're going to jump down a little bit to the history and then hit some scriptures and close the lesson out. There's a history. In the 1950s and 1960s, the term meant defense against strategic, usually nuclear-armed missiles. The technology mostly centered around detecting offensive launch events and tracking inbound ballistic missiles. But with limited ability to actually defend against a missile, the Soviet Union achieves the first non-nuclear intercept of a ballistic missile warhead by a missile at the Saryshagan anti-ballistic missile defense test range on 4 March 1961. You know, because they're a portion of their land is going to be devastated, but the place where the devastation is going to come to is America. You know, so they were able to set up this defense because they are not Babylon the Great, you know, and they're not going to be fully destroyed as America is. It says throughout the 1950s and 1960s, the United States Project Nike air defense program focused initially on bombers, then ballistic missiles in the 1950s. The first United States anti-ballistic missile system was the Nike Hercules, which had a limited ability to intercept incoming ballistic missiles, although not ICBMs, because these are the Most High's babies right here. You know, and what I mean by that is that this is the weapons of his armory. And before I read on, Isaiah 54:16, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. Now the ancient smith was a guy that worked by the fire, you know, with a anvil, I believe that's called, and a big ass like a hammer, a sledgehammer, and he would form different weapons, instruments of war, whether it was for defensive or offensive. So, and the way they would do it was through blowing coals and having to heat up that metal to shape it and mold it to what they wanted, whether it was a dart, whether it was an arrow, whether it was a sword, a shield, a lance, you know, whatever it was. But the modern day smiths today would be known as your scientists that are developing these weapons here for the purpose of defending themselves against other countries, and mainly, which they don't tell you this in the outright, but mainly to fight against Yahweh Shai when he comes back. That's why you read about in the book of Revelation, the 12th chapter, and other chapters about that great war in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the devil and his angels. Well, that's dealing with the Yahweh Shai, the archangel Michael, and the other angels in the chariots coming to fight against the so-called white man, the Edomites, the devil, and his military, and the militaries of the world. Okay, so that's what that's talking about. But they have this mythology in these so-called Christian churches that say that that's talking about the righteous angels fighting against the wicked angels, which shows you that they're gone. All right, so it says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. And these smiths today are the modern day scientists, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And this instrument for their work that they're bringing out are these missiles. Right here, the nuclear missiles. This is the instrument that they brought forth. All that splicing and years of research and testing. This is what they came up with, and this is the Lord's gift to them, so to speak, to destroy themselves, because the Lord's going to allow them to use this device here to destroy themselves, because this is what's going to cause that lake of fire that's going to come upon the land known as America, which in the scripture is known as Babylon the Great. And John the Revelator and the rest of the men that were delivered into the chariots actually looked on the earth, and they saw America and certain parts of the earth that looked like a lake that was burning with fire, especially in America. Okay, that's why they called it the lake of fire. All right, so it says, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. So this thing here is a waster, and its only purpose is to destroy and to bring forth the judgment of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You know, it's not for show, as they show you in Russia and different other places where they parade their missiles, you know, just to show their force. That's not what this is for. This is a waster to destroy. This is going to bring the Most High's final judgment upon this wicked kingdom known as America, Babylon the Great, and upon the Edomite power structure and government to be brought down by the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Ezekiel 38:7, when you read from the first verse, is dealing with Russia, which is Gog and Magog, you know, and they are defending other nations such as Iran and others, you know, and that are allies to them. So the Lord's telling them here, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them, because there is going to be a world war, which is World War III, which is the war to end all wars, and Russia is going to be the one of the main key players in there. You're going to have China, you're going to have India, you're going to have Pakistan. You know, you're going to have other nations that are allies with Russia, you know, and eventually the allies of America, those so-called European allies of America, are going to turn and shoot their missiles on America also, because this place, America, is condemned to judgment. All right, it says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. This land that is brought back from the sword is talking about the land of Israel, because Russia and other of its allies are going to bomb the hell out of that land over there called Israel, with them gutter rats, you know, and them Palestinians and all them in it. Okay, now keep in mind that this when you read the scriptures, some chapters, they jump from different time periods. This is jumping to the future, and then there's some of this chapter that was dealing directly with the times back then when the Medes actually came against Israel. But in this part here and other parts of the chapter is dealing with the end times and the land that belonged to the Medes at one time. Now the Russians have control over it. It says, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. And you could tell the difference by what's being said. You know, when it speaks about the destruction by fire and all that, you know that it's talking about the end times. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. Thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Because right now, you know, they playing games, they paying each other off, they're acting like they're enemies, you know, but eventually something's going to happen where the Lord is going to change the mind of either Putin, if he's in there, or whoever is in there, to change their mind to start really sending a all-out assault on America, Babylon the Great. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. Now, the land of unwalled villages is here in America. And what does it mean by unwalled? Meaning that it's not protected. Para was it says open region, hamlet, unwalled village, open country, because they have really no defense, and those that so-called missile defense that they have is going to fail, because they're not going to be able to shoot down these missiles that are going to be coming towards America, Babylon the Great. So it says, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest and that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, because this place is open, you know, it's just open. You know, anybody can roll up in here, you know. They have no real security. To take the spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. All right, so now I'm going to jump from there to Jeremiah 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. And these are all those Russian countries, because Russia one time was known as the USSR, the United Soviet Socialist Republic. And then it broke up, and certain parts of the land broke away from the former Soviet Union, but now these lands are coming back to the Russians, you know, and those when they all get back together, that's when this will be fulfilled. And they shall set themselves in array against her. Against who? Babylon the Great. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Why? Because no matter how great this devil's missile defense system is, it's going to miss. And it's not going to be able to take down these missiles, because they're going to have the fury of the Lord in them. And as we read, as we saw this video here, it says U.S. missile defense test fails in Hawaii. So they have tested this missile defense system, and it failed twice. And like this guy here said, he said that that those were under controlled conditions. This would be under uncontrolled conditions. You're not going to be able to control it. So if you can't shoot the missile down when it's a controlled test, how are you going to be able to shoot it down when it's the real deal? He said it's just like trying to shoot down a bullet with another bullet. Impossible. All right. And that's it on that. Joel 2:7. They shall run like mighty men. This is dealing with the missiles. They shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks, because they're not going to crash into each other, and nothing's going to be able to destroy it. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. So even if an actual missile defense hits it, it's not going to destroy it, because the spirit of the Most High himself is going to be in those missiles. Because remember, this is his armory. You know, these are the weapons of his indignation. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the walls. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. Why? Because it's going to be some rocking and rolling. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army. For his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? All right. Now jumping to the book of Second Ezra's 16 and 11. The Lord shall threaten, who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence. The earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also, before the Lord and before the glory of his power. Because the Lord is coming to bring his power, and he's coming to introduce himself to the world, so to speak. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. So they're not going to miss. So your missile defense system, America, Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, is not going to work. It's going to fail. Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled, and shall not be put out, till they consume the foundation of the earth. Why? Because the Lord wants to destroy this devil. And they are the foundation of the earth right now. They are the ones in power. They are the ones that have the structure and the governance of this world. So it's like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. Okay? So your America, Babylon the Great, your missile defense system will fail. Your Star Wars system will fail. Anything that you have to fight against Yahushua and the angels and to keep your kingdom going is going to fail. All right? So with that, this has been another lesson. I pray that you brothers out there that are part of the elect have been edified. And to the next time I say, Shalom.